Well, hello everyone. Welcome or welcome back to 78 Reflections. My name is Patty Elaine, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, we are going to do what I'm calling the Alchemy Spread for the third decan in Aries. So the Alchemy Spread was an idea that I had based on the Temperance card. And so you can see the Temperance card here, and you can see there's two cups. And these two cups are flowing actually back and forth, not just downward, but actually back and forth. And so these energies are creating an alchemy that you can see this angel is somewhat directing. And so for the Alchemy Spread, what I'm working with is cards representing the Zodiac, the current Zodiac, which is Aries. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And also the card representing the ruling planet of the third decan, which is Venus. And then in the middle, this angel, we have the Minor Arcana card representing the third decan, which is the Four of Wands. So we're going to explore this more today, and I'm going to bring in some cards from some other decks that I've been working with and learning about as I've been exploring the third decan, which is Aries and Venus. So let's jump into that together. And I just want to start by talking a little bit more about Aries. And so I'm going to move these out of the way for now as we explore Aries a little bit more. Aries is the cardinal fire sign, and the fresh, brash enthusiasm of Aries is symbolized by this headstrong ram that you see in this beautiful Starcode's Astro Oracle card. Aries asks us to remember our personal fire, our reason for being alive. And the Major Arcana card that represents Aries is the Emperor. The Emperor is the 4 card in the Major Arcana, and 4 is for stability. The Emperor rules with his head and not with his heart. He sits on a throne, you can see in this Waite-Smith image here, but he's ready to spring into action without hesitation. He brings order and structure to situations that could be chaotic and out of balance. He's all about the 4s, the 4 seasons, the 4 elements, the 4 phases of the moon. Emperor has this good father energy. He rules judiciously, with authority, fairness, and he has courage to move forward for the betterment of all. The Emperor guides us to find our personal power and to access our leadership ability. He gives us vision and vitality to start new projects. And I want to show you some of the cards from the other decks that I've been working with, starting with this beautiful image from the Star Tarot. Now you can see in this image here, we have a black horse and a white horse, which is very different from the usual imagery that we're used to seeing. And the black horse represents finding light in the darkness. And the white horse represents wisdom with power. They also talk about the feminine and masculine on either side of the Emperor as well. The oak tree symbolizes strength. We have an eagle for connection with the divine. And we have a lion cub, which is about connection to the earth, but also about patience and gentleness and respect that the Emperor shows towards that lion cub. We also have this very unusual imagery of the Emperor from the Tarot of the Spirit. I'm just going to see if I can lay these out nicely for you to take a look at. The Tarot of the Spirit if you don't know, they have this gigantic book. This is a separate purchase from the deck, but it is rich with symbolism, and I feel like I've only scratched the surface of understanding the Emperor card and the symbology. But I want to talk about a couple of things. The one big imagery in this card is this window pane, and I don't know if you can see it, but he is in this window pane. And that is meant to represent his clear sight and presence of mind. It's also about structure. So you can see the structure of the window pane and the window, but also the cube that he's sitting on. So that is meant to depict structure. He also has the staff of Venus, which I thought was really interesting, and that is his connection to the Empress, which is a really good segue into us digging a little more into Venus. So let's talk a bit more about Venus. Venus symbolizes our heart, romance, the creative process. Venus invites us to enjoy creativity, generosity, and affection. Come to know your heart. Know what you are passionate about. It's about compassion, affection, and curiosity being medicine for a broken heart. The challenge with Venus is that sometimes the emotions can run strong and the passions are intense. But the gift of Venus is that connection with the heart, and also encourages a loving heart not only towards ourselves, but towards others, towards the well-being of others. And so it's not surprising to think of the Major Arcana card representing Venus as being the Empress. And the Empress is the Divine Mother. She's creation, manifestation. The Empress rules from the heart. She's about healing, love, and creativity. Let's take a look at some of the cards from the other decks for the Empress. And so this is the Star Tarot. There's so much symbolism within the Star Tarot. It's sometimes even hard. It's a bit busy. Sometimes it's hard for me to see all of the symbols. But I'm going to point out a few that I think are quite important. And this is quite common, is the crown. Her crown is 12 stars representing the Zodiac. She has roses in her hair and on her gown that represent her passion for living. There's birds that are the messengers from spirit, and the eagle, which took me a while to see, but the eagle is up top holding the star. That is a messenger from the divine. Over here, we see a deer, which is love, compassion, and gentleness. And the guidebook talks about the Empress representing the 5th chakra, which is the throat, and speaking our truth. So the tarot of the spirit, we have this beautiful card here. Let's just see if I can make that fit well for you. And there are some similar symbols in the card. You can see the eagle up here. You can see some roses alongside. There's also birds. There's the staff of Venus there that the Emperor was holding. And the guidebook talks about the Empress containing all, without overflowing. The Empress is all abundance, the symbol of fertility, shelter, protection, and nourishment. She is the master creator who must be open and receptive to abstract ideas. It also talks about the stages of the Empress, the first being the receiving of an idea, and that is when the Empress is the very essence of Venus, and love is the glue that allows that seed in and to stick. And then we have stage 2, which is the nurturer, and that's holding and creating life, nurturing, abundance for all, and that calm and enduring joy. And then there's the stage 3, which is the birther, and that's releasing this force or this creation into its new form. And the guidebook talks about how the Empress experiences mixed feelings through that, because there is a sorrow of letting go, but also this undercurrent of immense joy. Where should I put that one? In the Zodiac Tarot, some of the things I wanted to point out were kind of interesting. They describe the Empress as creative chaos, substance before it takes shape, passion, fertility, abundance. And it talks about the Empress belonging to the earth element. So now that we've explored the cards on either side, let's explore the Minor Arcana, the Four of Wands, and then we're going to put it all together and talk about the alchemy. So the Four represents stability, and the Suit of Wands is about passion. It's the element of fire. With the Four of Wands, this image that you see in front of you is the Waite-Smith image, and we think of celebration. But the other really important part of this celebration is the fact that the people who love us are gathering around to offer us their support. And that could be a wedding, but it doesn't have to be a wedding. It could be a birthday, a graduation. It could be any milestone that we are celebrating. Some of the other cards, let's take a look at the Star Tarot. Oops, the wrong card. Hold, please. I have to shift and find out where I put my other 4 cards. Too many cards to manage. So here we have the Star Tarot, 4 of Wands, and this is a really interesting image. We can see these 2 golden bears, and they're enjoying the harvest. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful image there. And the harvest is from the divine. There's also this element of the gathering around and support and celebration. And in this case, it's the birds singing and the fairies blessing this celebration of harvest and the bounty of harvest. And the 8-pointed star that you see in the middle symbolizes balance, harmony, and cosmic order. There's also a medicine wheel representing wholeness, individuation, completion, and new beginnings. In the Tarot of the Spirit, the 4 of Fire, the keyword is flame of spirit. And this talks about the 4 of Wands in a way that I would say resonates with me very strongly, because it speaks to a phase of development that is complete based on your revelations and good intentions of the past. You've built a strong structure, but in some ways you no longer feel connected to the structure. Old structures must frequently be abandoned to make way for new growth. You are growing, beginning a new phase of your life. It's as if your own personal wheel of fortune is turning again, and this is necessary for you to grow. You are growing. Search your heart for the next course of action. At the 4 of Fire, the flame of spirit, the challenge is to attune into the spiritual aspects of self. The eternal light of spirit. And I think that's really beautiful, because even when you think of, celebrations and milestones, oftentimes it is about a structure that you have built and put in place. But then going forward from there, it's going to be something new again. Once you graduate, you're no longer a student and you're going out into the world. You could think of retirement in the same way. And the structure that you had, you're letting go of and starting fresh. Similarly, when you're getting married, you're leaving the home and you're moving on to this new life of independence. I mean, maybe you long left the home, but So I think that there are a lot of interesting components that we can think of when we look at these different cards, because it really gives us the opportunity to broaden our view of the Four of Wands. The Zodiac Tarot is really interesting because it speaks specifically to the third decan. And that is where here we have Venus and Mars meeting, the Emperor and the Empress. In this position, Venus is in exile. She doesn't feel completely comfortable in this active and warrior-like energy of Mars in the Aries sign. And when polar opposites meet, they create a stability worth celebrating. So let's get the cards back in and talk about the alchemy. So I'm going to leave the Four of Wands there. I'm going to put the Temperance card for perspective. And we're going to put our planet, Venus, as well as the Empress card back. And Aries, our zodiac sign, with the Emperor. And if you have 36 Secrets, I highly recommend reading the chapter on this decan. It is really interesting. She goes pretty deep into this Venus in exile topic, and I'm not going to begin to try to articulate it other than to talk about it in the context of the alchemy, because I'm not an astrologer. So here we have our alchemy spread. And we have Temperance as the center point, our guiding card, and it represents the divine blending of the two forces, the flow between the vessels, this sacred work of integration. So we have the Emperor over here, which is Aries, forceful, directive, unapologetically sovereign. And on the other side, we have beautiful Venus and our Empress, the planetary ruler of this decan. And at first glance, especially with this Four of Wands in the center, we think about this divine pairing. And without question, it can be a divine pairing, the masculine and feminine, structure and sensuality, fire and fertility. But as T. Susan Chang reminds us in her book, The 36 Secrets, this isn't a meeting of equals. Venus is in exile, traveling through the day house of Mars. She's not here on her own terms, and that means her power is dimmed. Her halo is subdued. She is a guest here. She is not a queen, and yet she is the ruler of this decan. She holds sway, even if it's a bittersweet one. So there's something deeply compelling about that. It's this kind of alchemy that doesn't happen in perfect comfort, but through tension. Sparks fly. And not because everything fits or because everything is perfect, but because it doesn't. And yet somehow something beautiful comes of this. And that's where we see the Four of Wands, the Minor Arcana card associated with Aries 3. It's often talked about as homecoming, celebration. And while it could be tempting to say this is a perfect union and happily ever after, it's not that simple. And reading T. Susan Chang's chapter on In 36 Secrets made me think that her term of the Four of Wands being a temporary refuge, a safe haven. So the Four of Wands then becomes this sacred shelter created from this dynamic of friction between Venus and Mars. It's a moment of joy forged from the adversity and maybe a taste of peace or joy in a place that isn't quite home. So in this spread, the Temperance angel becomes the alchemist of paradox, taking the warrior's fire and the exiled goddess's grace and creativity and mixing them into something interesting, celebratory, a sanctuary between battles. So for me, that's the essence of Aries 3. It's not necessarily about lasting peace, but finding the divine in the momentary harmony, the kind that burns bright precisely because it won't last. So this has been really fun for me to learn about all of these different aspects and bring it in together. You know, as I said, I'm not an astrologer. I'm just learning all of this for the first time. So I'd welcome your comments about this in the comments. And I hope you take what you like and leave what you don't like. And I am going to continue doing spreads for each of the decans. So I hope to see you in about 10-ish days for Taurus 1. It kind of depends on when I have a chance to dig in and feel prepared to do my reading, but I would love to see you here. Also, I do wobble readings, and right now I'm in a series of 33 wobble readings. So if you'd like to join me, I hope you will subscribe. And please like this video if you do, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then.